Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today's a little bit more of a fun video on Palantir. I went on TikTok, TikTok.com, the website that actually replaced Google.com in 2021 in terms of the most visited website in the world in terms of traffic. And I searched up Palantir. Now, some of these videos I watched, some of these videos I didn't watch. A lot of this I'm going to be reacting to in the first time with you guys. I know most of my audience is around 24 to like 55. So I'm pretty sure you guys don't use TikTok that much. Now, some of you may, but because you guys are into stocks, investing, and finance and sort of that type of content, I don't think you use TikTok that much in terms to get that type of content. Like TikTok is good for like some fun entertainment type of stuff, but I've tried TikTok for stocks, investing, and finance and stuff. And if you think there's ridiculous people on YouTube giving horrible advice and horrible content and horrible clickbaity sensationalized thumbnails, TikTok's a whole nother world because you only get like 60 seconds, really 10 seconds to be honest, to really make an impression on people and like actually get them to watch for your watch times to go up, because your watch times have to be proportional to the length of the duration of the TikTok. So if it's like more than 30 seconds, it's hard to get a 75% watch time on those TikToks, which means it becomes really hard for you to actually grow and gain traction on TikTok. The reason I like YouTube when it comes to content around stocks, investing, and finance is because although there is the clickbaity stuff, if you click on a video, people are actually going to listen to at least, 5, 7, 8 minutes of a 10-minute video, which means there's going to be actually a substantive discussion that is going to be happening in that video, which means there's going to be some level of nuance that you're going to have some time to express your thoughts, your opinions, all that stuff. With TikTok, it's a little bit harder to do that. But nonetheless, I was like, hey, let's see what type of Palantir content on TikTok. Maybe it's cringy, maybe it's good, maybe people are bullish, maybe people are not. I'm just going through the top results when I Google or when I search Palantir on TikTok. And yeah, this is going to be interesting. I'm reacting to this pretty much the first time as you guys. I've seen like one or two of them, but not all of them. So let's see what the TikTok community thinks about Palantir. All right, so this is the first video.
Getting crushed today. What do I do? I'm actually pretty confused by this one myself. What? Well, Palantir reported earnings today, which means they updated investors on their recent performance. So they're down because they shit the bed? No, they actually had a fantastic earnings report. They beat revenue and earnings expectations, added 34 new customers, and absolutely crushed it on deals. So it sounds like, yep, I'm buying the dip. Dude,
if only that guy knew when he was buying the dip how much worse the dip would get. Okay, that was not bad. So this is Invest with Russ. Interesting. All right, that was not the worst Palantir video.
For those of you that follow me know I sold out of my Palantir stock yesterday after the story broke that they bought $50 million in gold bars as a hedge against a black swan event. Well, today's follow-up about this company I think is even more disturbing. In this Barron's article, they talk about Palantir making a commitment of $250 to a series of small companies in exchange for potential value of $428 million in contracts. Well, let me ask you folks, does that smack of a company with an excellent product and a lot of confidence? A $250 million commitment for a potential $428 million return? Yeah, that's not good in my opinion. I don't short stocks, but if I did, this would be the first one I'll ever do. For those of you.
Bro, what? Yeah. Okay. So this is actually my first time reaction. I actually haven't seen these. And that's why I was like, I thought this would be a fun video to do. Cause like, I don't know what type of content is on TikTok around Palantir, but a lot of this stuff is interesting. So first of all, so in the comments, you really didn't make much of an argument. The comments are interesting, but so he's selling it because they spent $250 million to get $428 million in contracts. First of all, that makes sense to me because they're getting double what they paid for in terms of investment in contracts. So it's paying for the investment and they're getting money on top of that. But second of all, this guy doesn't understand the SPAC deal. He should probably watch my video on the SPAC thesis. The SPAC thesis for Palantir is the reason they're allocating $250 million around 14 companies is because they've invested in some of the most innovative companies in the world. They've invested in Wejo and Cellularity and Adherent and Sarcos Robotics, all these companies that are using data-driven decision-making to power their operations. Is every company going to be, a company that gets really, really big? Probably not. But out of 14, if they have a meaningful equity stake in 2 or 3 of them that end up doing really big things, and we're already seeing one of their SPACs partnered with Microsoft, and it's powering the next revolution of connected vehicle data and possibly challenging Tesla in terms of helping all the other car manufacturers understand how to make their electric vehicles more smarter and stronger. And Wejo is the name of that SPAC. I mean, like, and Palantir has an equity stake in them, and that company is using the Foundry software, and all these SPACs are getting more accustomed to Foundry, and Foundry is trying to become the operating system for businesses throughout the entire world. Like, it's a no-brainer for me, this SPAC strategy, and for Palantir to really diversify a lot of their money in these little bets. And these are little bets at the end of the day. Like, yes, you could use that money in other things, but if you put these money in these bets and you've got Peter Thiel and Alex Karp making these bets. I mean, I wouldn't bet against those guys sort of picking good companies. Peter ended up picking Facebook. He was the first outside investment in that company. So, I mean, not all these investments are going to go well, but this is not a reason to short the stock, as this guy said. Or maybe, do short it and see what happens. I mean, if you shorted it in September, you'd be making a killing by now. But I think long term, this is not a company you want to short. So interesting. All right, let's see what's next.
All right, so let's talk about Palantir stock. If you guys don't know who they are, they basically play in the data analytics, artificial intelligence space, and they have a large number of government contracts. With that said, they are expanding out to other types of consumers as well. This stock has been getting absolutely crushed over the last year, and more recently, they have had a major downslide, primarily hitting all growth stocks. From a metrics perspective, these guys, they don't have any earnings, and all of these measures would indicate that even at these prices, they're still overvalued. Operating metrics such as these and these are definitely not pleasant, and they've been hit or miss as it relates to street expectations. Revenue has been getting better, but earnings has been getting worse, largely due to investments in SG&A. Kathy Wood's ARK Invest appears to be a major holder here, which is definitely not a good thing in this environment. And there are more net sellers relative to buyers when it comes to insiders. So overarchingly, there's a lot more room to the downside. Long term, though, they do have growth prospects. Include your thoughts in the comments, and this is not.
Okay, so a couple things here. I mean, this was okay, but again, this is kind of the problem with TikTok because you get this like 1 minute burst of information, and it's like, did you actually learn something from listening to this? I mean, did you even have time to like look at this screenshot? So, first of all, Kathy Wood owning this stock, yes, he's correct. That's bad in this environment. Bad with quotation marks, but I mean, you'd want Kathy Wood to have 37 million shares of Palantir. I mean, like, I'm very happy that they own 37 million shares of Palantir. Look at this. BlackRock has 82 million shares. Vanguard Group, 119 million. State Street Corporation, 31. I'm going to do another video one day really breaking down all the funds that own a lot of shares of Palantir, but this is a lot of shares in these top institutional holders, and we know the institutional moat has gone up over the past couple months from like 31% to like 37%. So that is growing there. The other thing this guy said is that their earnings are like not the best, or their street expectations are not the best. They beat all the street expectations in Q3, and they had a pretty phenomenal Q3 earnings. It just wasn't enough for Wall Street to handle, given we were ready to fall off the cliff in November when it came to growth stocks. I think Wall Street was just like done with everybody. But yeah, I mean, this was a decent video, I guess. He did mention they have long-term growth potential, which is, yeah, kind of the point of Palantir. But like, see, this is the problem with these TikToks. It's like, in this minute, what did I get from Palantir, right? Like, imagine watching my 8-minute video on an update of what Palantir is doing versus this 1 minute TikTok. Which one do you get more information from? And even if you just want a general overview of Palantir, I would rather watch like a 10-minute in-depth analysis and walk away with a little bit more information on Palantir than a 1 minute TikTok that really doesn't explain much about it. So yeah, I mean, this is kind of the problem with TikTok.
So Palantir has built a business that is really hard to build. And I say that as someone with a computer science background, but also as someone with a business background. But Palantir will always be very deceptive as an investment. Because if you read their 10K, they tell you that their sales cycle on average is 5 years long. That means that salaries and bonuses paid to salespeople today don't result in revenue until 5 years later. And what that means is if the company continues to grow, it will never be profitable. But that's not a bad thing. The day it turns a profit is the day it stops growing. Unless its sales cycle shortens materially, but I don't think that'll happen. The reason this is deceptive is because it makes its financial statements very hard to understand, which means you need some specialized knowledge to be able to value the company. Not something most people should be buying. So Palantir.
Interesting. So I kind of agree with his perspective on not something most people should be buying because most people don't understand Palantir, right? So like even if you buy Palantir, you're just going to sell it immediately once something goes wrong because you know nothing about what you own, right? So if you've done the due diligence, then I do believe you should own the company. Now, his argument about they're not profitable, that's actually the point of high growth tech startups. They're not supposed to be profitable. They need to get to a 36% or 35% adjusted operating margin. When they're able to do that, a lot of good things are going to be able to happen. But the thing is, Amazon was not profitable as well. And I'm only bringing up Amazon to say when you're a very high growth technology company with Amazon-like potential, which I believe Palantir does, at least the AWS sector of Amazon, you're supposed to get market share. This is the reason Cathie Wood bought 37 million shares of Palantir, even though they're not throwing a profit, is because she wants them to grow. I mean, if she literally did an interview once when the stock price was like $29 and she was like, we don't care about profits. We don't want them to have profits. We want them to grow because the profits will come, but there is a 5-year horizon, as for what he said for 5 years, Cathie Wood is a 5-year horizon for a reason. If you get profits now, it's like that you're not growing. That's actually very correct. It's like you should be growing. You should be aggressively growing. And if you are aggressively growing, the market will reward you with a multiple. Now, if you can turn a profit on that growth as well, sort of the bull case that we have for Palantir is a 36% year-over-year growth with 35% adjusted operating margin, then the market's really going to reward you. But in the meantime, you got to grow, because until you grow, you're really, you're not even going to have the potential to turn a profit because you're not going to get enough of the market. And this is a big market. There's a lot of players, but Palantir is trying to get most of it.
Palantir at one point was worth 60 billion. Now it's down 50% and worth 30 billion. But what price should you pay? Unfortunately, your calculator won't work in this case because Palantir doesn't even make any operating income, let alone net income. Our best bet is to take the trailing 12 months revenue, which is about 1.5 billion, and give it a generous 15 times sales multiple, making it 22.5 billion.
By the way, the average for tech companies is usually 18 to 25. So, I mean, I guess it's generous, but yeah.
Now, as much as I admire Peter Thiel and understand that Palantir is in a unique position dealing with the military and all, I just don't see myself paying 33 billion. Because at these levels, the staggering growth is almost expected of them, and that leaves little room for error. Now remember guys, you don't have to get them all right, you just need to get some of them right. And for me, if I don't see any earnings or cash flow, I just can't invest. Some people's thesis for buying Palantir has to do with Alex Karp's crazy hairdo, but that's not me. So if you want to learn more about Palantir or any other company, you can visit.
Yeah, I mean, hey man, the hair is attractive. What am I going to say? Yeah, no, I get his argument. I mean, if he doesn't see, he's more of a little bit of a conservative investor. He needs to see the value. He needs to see the earnings and cash flow and profit for him to invest. Look, a lot of high growth tech companies, you're not going to get that. If you wanted that for Tesla, you would have missed out on Tesla. I hate to compare it to Tesla, but it's just like, if you really think you've got a good company and you really think there's a lot of potential there and that growth is expected because that growth is going to happen because they really don't have a lot of competitors in terms of how they're going to be able to grow, then you're willing to deal and stomach the volatility of not having profits. So to each their own.
I know this is not a stock page, but I would like to let you know the only stocks that I would ever consider buying. Now, before we get into it, I actually have very, very negative opinions on the stock market. I am not a fan. I sold all of my stocks to buy crypto. I also, this might be stupid, but I sold all of my gold and silver, my physical gold and silver, to buy crypto.
Okay. All right. I guess he's going to mention Palantir as one of the only stocks he would ever personally buy, but yeah, well, what's his username? Crypto. He's verified? Crypto Masun? All right, I guess 1 million followers, daily crypto content, that is understandable. Okay. I guess he's a crypto thought leader, I guess.
Crypto, it's already paid off like 6x. So I could just buy back into gold and silver. Now, the only stocks I would buy are right here. The first one is Palantir. The main reason for Palantir is because of Peter Thiel and a bunch of other reasons that I'm not going to get into. The second one is Coin.
Okay, first of all, if you're a crypto guy, you could have at least mentioned Foundry for crypto and how like the backbone a lot of these crypto startups is going to be Foundry because a lot of them have to deal with anti-money laundering and KYC, which is know your customer laws, and deal with financial fraud, and Foundry and Palantir is like specializes in making sure that stuff doesn't happen. So like you could have mentioned that. But I'm curious, what other stocks is he interested in?
Coinbase stock and any other type of blockchain or cryptocurrency related stock. And the third one, of course, is Ripple. If they ever go public, I am buying the out of a Ripple stock. I know this is not
Ripple, Coinbase, and Palantir. Okay, well, he put in Palantir. Peter Thiel is his thesis on that, so I guess you got to give it to him for that.
Why is everybody talking about Palantir stock and what is it? Palantir Technologies is an American software company that specializes in big data analytics. So why are people excited about the stock? Number one, they've had huge growth. In fact, they've increased their commercial customer count by 61% since December 31st, 2020. Number two, their contracts are expanding like crazy. They've had a 63% increase year over year as well as a 175% increase over 2020. Number three, their cash flow is way ahead of schedule. In fact, management had predicted that cash flow would reach 150 million by the end of 2021, which has now increased to 300 million in Q2. So is Palantir a buy? Only you can decide. Why is everybody talking?
that was a pretty good one. Hey, a lot of facts in that one. Can't argue with that one. I mean, yeah, this is from the Motley Fool, so it makes sense they're making this stock content.
So Palantir, a somewhat shady company, recently bought $50 million worth of gold. But why? Well, Palantir actually bought a few of these 100-ounce gold bars that cost like more than $180,000 and are storing them somewhere in the northeastern United States. As I said earlier, Palantir is kind of a shady company. They make software for governments all over the world. So what do they know that we don't? Palantir said they bought this gold in case of a future Black Swan event. This kind of sounds like a plot of a future Nick Cage movie that I would totally watch. So Palantir...
Interesting. So his first comment is calling Palantir shady was a bit dramatic. They are just more secretive and under the radar. Again, this goes to the fact that like very few people understand what Palantir does, right? Like they really don't get Palantir. So that's why he called him shady. I can't even blame for that. I said, I mentioned the other video the other day, I was talking to my friend and he was like, isn't that the company that like just helps the CIA spy on you? And I'm like, man, this perception problem, we've got to change this issue. They've got to invest more in educating people because people just don't know too much about Palantir. But it did make sense for them to buy $15 million worth of gold because this was back in August and then, you know, the market crashed in September. So they were obviously expecting that rates were going to go higher. Inflation was going to get higher. So it made sense for them to buy $50 million worth of gold. All right, this is actually kind of fun. I think this was interesting. Let me know if you guys want a part 2 on this. I don't think this was the cringiest thing in the world. And the cool thing about this video is like you get some videos that are kind of weird and like you have these things about Palantir that people don't really understand or don't make any sense. And you get some other videos that are kind of cool. And then you get some other videos that are interesting takes, like the guy who's only investing in Palantir for Peter Thiel. So let me know if you would want to do a part 2. We're just going to do some reactions to other TikToks around Palantir and hopefully we learn or see. Here's the main reason I'm actually bullish on this type of video format or like this type of series on the channel. We get to see what the general public is thinking about Palantir. And general public meaning people who are not like dedicated stock people like me or Tom Nash on YouTube that have really done a lot of due diligence and an analysis of the company. Like our takes are going to be a lot more different than this guy called Admani Explains, who probably does not make every piece of content around stocks and investing and finance. Some of them are, but even their Palantir content is not that strong because they're not only hyper focusing on that. And some of them are not that strong. And some of them are just these random people that are super crypto influencers that have 1 million followers that also know about Palantir. So that's why I like this, because you don't know what video is going to come up, but you are going to get a sense of what the general community around stocks and investing finance, at least on TikTok in these short bites, are thinking about the company Palantir, which should help us as like investors that are really deep into the company understand a little bit more about the perceptions of the company in the entire world. So yeah, let me know if you guys enjoyed. Part 2 in the comments if you guys want it. Looking forward to reading them. My name is Mitt. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one.